God blessings is free. You know, can't buy God blessings. And you definitely can't buy God either. Other than, prayer and faith for whatever you're praying for whatever you're trying to get. But other than that, his blessings is free. Because from one, God is a spirit. And of course, as we know, he's in heaven, at the highest level of heaven. Money is paper, it's physical. So his blessings is free. You can't buy a blessing. There's no amount of money that's going to buy a blessing for God because it's definitely not for sale. Now, should we pray and have faith for what we trying to get? Yes. But other than that, we can't buy no blessing for God. And we definitely can't buy God because God is not for sale. And that's just how it is. That's what it be. But other than that, bring it on the special guest for the day, Andre Parks, and we about to get to it. The guest for the day is Andre. He's about to come on next, and we're going to talk about what he got going on and get to it.
How's it going, T.Elis?
What's good?
Cool, man. Been a long year.
So, Andre, what type of stuff you got going on today?
I recently became a over-the-road truck driver, man. So that's what I've been gaining a lot of experience doing, you know, driving trucks.
So, doing that, what that experience like being on the road all the time?
Well, you get to see things that you may have not seen, experience different things, different scenery, like being in the mountains. I can recall seeing mountains, when I was younger, you know, but having to actually drive through some mountains in a semi truck, weighing about 80,000 pounds, that brought on a whole nother experience. I see it as a paid vacation.
So, being a truck driver, like, how much time off do y'all get when y'all do get time off?
Well,
or days off?
the, the FMSCA, FMCSA, Florida, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, they have laws which, we have to abide, and you get a 70-hour work week, which you may be able to buy time back to drive, which, your 70 will go into, an 80-hour work week, but you can only drive 11 hours a day, which in all reality, you're not going to really be able to drive all 11 hours, and then after your clock runs out, then you have to do a mandatory 10-hour break, and you may run into a situation to where you use your whole 70-hour clock, so now you're forced to do a mandatory 34-hour reset. So wherever you are, you may have to sit there. At times you may not have to sit there, but you may be somewhere where you can experience something you never experienced. You may be in a whole nother state, town, city, different weather climates, etc. You try some food you never tried, meet different people. It's just a wide range of things, activities that you can do during your 34-hour reset.
So when you traveling on the road, like going to different cities, different states, is that something you enjoy doing? Being to see all that?
Yes, more definitely I enjoy doing it because, like I expressed, I feel it's, which I see it as a paid vacation. You know, you're constantly traveling. If you don't mind traveling, or say you may not have a family, and you're just depending on yourself, you know, so getting out and seeing the world pretty much at someone else's expense, you know, but at your health as well because you have to be in a physical good shape, in order to be able to do so.
So you have a family, right? Or
Yes, I have a family, and I just started, taking the off days, that my company offers. I take them all at one time at the end of the month, and I come, back where I'm from, and I spend time with the family, etc. Family, friends, etc. Hang out, maybe even just rest, you know.
so how do you separate, being a truck driver, being on the road a lot, versus, having your family and maintaining that time with them?
Well, like most truck drivers, it's a career, you know, until it becomes a hobby, like music for me. I wasn't at the status where, okay, yeah, I want to be a rapper. You know, I'm buying equipment, etc. I didn't understand the business, which is why I feel like I didn't exceed, in that industry to a point to where, okay, I'm at this level now, and I don't need to find other income or find income to live a decent lifestyle. But if not even have a decent lifestyle, it's being able to do a lot more for yourself, you know, and also understand, for a lot of things you have to be hungry, for it and willing to put in the work.
Now, speaking of music, you a producer, because you produced a couple songs for me at one point in time. So, being a producer, how does that feel?
I mean, I had never really considered myself a producer. I hadn't went to school for it. I did study a lot of my own craft, which I still do today. I go back and I play some of the stuff that I've done. Just listen to it and see if I can critique it today. Differently than I critiqued it before. I mean, I feel it's a learning experience. Listening to other artists, creators, watching them, and just learning. You know, like I said, though, I believe the ultimate challenge is understanding the industry part of it, and being able to, if not get in the industry, just get to where you can accumulate, financial gain behind it.
Whenever you're making a beat or making a beat for an artist, like what process goes into that?
Well, I usually try to find out what the artist is looking for, the sound as far as like the instruments that they may want to have, all the way down to breaking the bars down.
Now, as far as today's music, what's your thoughts on that? Or do you have it?
I don't really think about it. I listen to it. I don't critique. I do my best not to critique others' music. I mean, I can understand, like, me, for instance, I may not have had the best equipment. I may not have had the best, building or anything to produce some decent quality music. So I feel when I was venturing in that, at my most, I did my best to make sure that I could produce a clear sound that people could understand whatever artist, I'm recording, producing, as you say.
Now, do you think it's a difference between a beat maker versus a producer, or is it the same?
A beat maker, a producer. Well, when you say producer, being a beat maker, you're producing that beat, you're producing a sound, a new sound, and the ultimate goal is to produce something, that's going to get you to the top of the charts. And who doesn't want to be at the top of the charts? You know, who doesn't want a certain lifestyle, whether it's for their own good or the good of others.
Now, being a producer and everything, is it more better for a producer to get paid up front or to get paid on the back end? When that artist on sale that, y'all don't produce.
Well, when you're speaking about money, okay, it's a business. Are both individuals seeing it as a business, or is one individual seeing it as, hey, I'm doing something I enjoy doing. I just enjoy doing it. I'm not going to charge you. Why? He may not be charging him because he may not understand earn. Sooner or later, I may not be able to keep up with this light bill or anything, my grocery list or anything, because I just enjoy doing this so much that I'm willing to lose everything I have just to do it, and try to set a market or make a market, and the person that's coming to that person, their goal is to I'm pretty sure climb the charts. I want to be on the charts. I want to make something, or maybe they just doing something they enjoy as well, or a first time recorder, first time being recorded, they like to hear themselves, when I first started, I just had like the little tape recorder, so we would take like other tapes and put like paper inside the tape so we would be able to record on that tape. So we would record over other people's stuff so we can have our stuff. That's how I first started. It wasn't all that technology, when I first started. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other artists, they used to use whatever they had around them to generate a sound or just to be unique.
Now, is there any artist today or from yesterday you would like to produce for and work with someday?
I'm willing to work with basically who I feel is, or who I feel I'm capable of working with. I don't really set a standard on working with the individual other than, hey, they may be asking me to produce something that I just having no experience in producing, so I probably tell them, up front, what you're asking me to do, I really can't do it. I can record it, I can mix the sounds, as good as I possibly can, at the end of the day, I just see that as more practice for me.
Now, does a record label come to you, major label, or come to you one day and want you to produce for any artist they got? Is that something you agree to?
I may possibly, look into it, being that I have invested, I'm pretty sure 15 plus years in it, I'm pretty sure I would experience that. I would take that experience on just to see where it goes.
Now, do you think that producers have a longer career than artists?
It depends. It depends on how hungry they are, how long the hunger lasts.
Because for one, there's never been no age limit on a producer because a lot of them, it's behind the scenes. But when it comes to rap, hip hop, some people put an age limit on it. You know,
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the age limit on it because production is production. Music is music. You know, and producing something that other people either can relate to or just enjoy hearing, seeing, it says a lot, regardless of the age.
right? Now, what you think of the rise of female rappers today? Because there's been a definite hype with that.
Well, I haven't really been keeping up with the female artists. I know, your Nicki Minaj's, your Cardi B's, your who's Sexy Reds, and okay, they've gotten to that level to where they're more well known for what they do. So I'm pretty sure it's many other artists out there that may sound just as good as these artists that I just named. And it's not that I follow these artists. I just understand. Okay, they're the ones. They're at the top of the charts, or they're the ones that are constantly being played on the radio, etc. Their status is recognized by many. But like I was saying, it may be somebody in your backyard, that's just as good as these artists that I just named, and they haven't had the opportunity to be exposed as an artist.
Now, would you agree that whether it's music, sports, or anything, that some may have all the talent in the world, but might not have a driving mindset and not really use it? Then somebody else might have less talent, but have a drive, have a motivation mindset, and use it, and go past a person that's got more talent than them.
That's that hunger.
Right. Now, you also a shoe designer. So,
I have, yes, sir. Excuse me, I'm gonna cut you off. I did start venturing into shoes, designing shoes. Shoes are manufactured in Italy, and to my understanding, it's some of the best material you can get. Just as good as Gucci, Louis Prada, everything else. I believe it's a growing company, and fashion is always going to be a growing industry. I have in the past designed like clothing, and I just recently ventured into, seeing how well I can design some shoes.
so to this day, like, is there a certain amount you already designed, or is that still a work in progress?
It's still a work in progress. I have over 10 designs. After this video, if anybody likes to get in contact with you, contact with me, to contact T.Elis, and I will gladly share the link. You can check out the designs.
Now, what, as far as the price, what price you gonna put on it? How much you sell it for?
Well, it's not as much of me, putting the price on, because the manufacturers pretty much have a set price, and then it's the material being used, and then the quantity that you decide to buy will give you a lower price range versus just getting a pair or two.
Now, the shoes, will there be shoes for all, like men, women, kids, anybody?
Right now, I'm only making shoes for adults. In the future, I can see myself designing shoes for kids. Yes.
Okay. going into, designing, like what inspired you to want to do this part?
I just had an interest for it, and I actually invested a little into it, and take the time and, because I like shoes too. I try my best not to go broke or hungry behind having a nice pair of shoes. At the same time, growing up, I was fortunate enough to be able to have decent things. So I have a passion for, creating, and using the gifts that I was blessed to have, which I feel that is one, being a creator.
And as far as the shoes, like, you have a name for them? Or?
I name the shoes RH. That's the name. That's how you pronounce it, RH.
And besides, since you're doing the shoes, will you have like a clothing line coming next to connect with it?
I haven't decided on the clothing line. I had a website where I was designing clothes over probably 10 years ago. I started designing, shirts, shorts, pants, things like that, and something happened to the website, so I kind of gotten away from that, and decided to dwell in the activities that I was, involved in at the time.
Now, being a creator, would you say that all creators will always be creative and be able to create at any age that they become?
Yes. For every day that you're blessed to be on this side of life, you're given the opportunity to continue to create.
Now, being a family man, being a father and everything, like how you take on that role?
I feel it's best to be as supportive, as you possibly can.
Right. So you want to give any shout outs?
Shout out to the world. The world gonna end up seeing this one day. And I pray I was able to share some influential things, maybe inspire someone else. You don't have to settle for anything. You put your mind to it and you go for
it. Right. Well, Andrea, thanks for your time.
it.